Hi, everyone. Welcome to Fridays with Neen. Hope y'all are having
Ooh,
a great Friday. I know we are. We are your hosts. I'm Justine and my beautiful and lovely co host. Who are you?
my name is Steph, everyone, and thanks for that nice little compliment. I needed that today on a cold and foggy Tuesday morning. Thank you.
No, is it really? It's like literally, it's blue skies, windy, birds are
Yeah,
chirping, flowers are blooming. It's beautiful over here. I feel like summer is like right around the corner.
it is. I love summer. I know you love it, but I
Mm-hmm.
love me some spring. Okay, like this is
Yeah.
for in order of the seasons for me. It's always going to be fall, spring, summer, and winter's just over there in the corner.
Fall, spring, summer, and winter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. For me, let's see what's mine. Mine's summer, then
Mhm.
spring, and then fall, and then winter.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. I think we've talked about this before. I've come to really love spring because of the
Mhm.
flowers blooming.
Yes, I mean, I don't love the allergies. I am like
Neither do I.
allergy, yeah, but the flowers are just there's something different about flowers in spring because it's not too
Hmm.
hot where it's like strangling the poor flowers, you know?
Exactly.
So, it's just so pretty. And I think the rain is done. I don't want to jinx it, but
I know, hopefully. I don't know. It's scary though. I mean, it's crazy when you think the amount of snow we got this year in California up north and even like right next door to me. But when that melts, I'm
mm,
scared. I mean, people are talking, and it's crazy because you don't really like to see it visually. Like,
yeah.
I don't know if I told you if it was someone else. We went somewhere and I literally saw a flood where all I saw was rooftops. And this was like
Oh.
10 minutes from my house.
Oh, I was
I'm
gonna say,
like,
did you travel and I didn't know this? What the heck?
yeah, I mean, we had to divert traffic because they had a road closed. And literally it was like a scene from like the news that we're like, oh, where's that? You know what I mean? And it's like right there. And they were like, oh, that's nothing. Cause when the snow starts to melt, these rivers are going to rise like nobody's business. And it's insane because over in Modesto, my mom and I were driving somewhere the other day and like this water, like it's kind of like it looks like a swamp, right? And
Yeah.
the water literally like a year ago, you could see the roots of trees. Now, all you see are the tops of the trees. It's
Oh my
insane.
God.
Yeah, it's like a rushing river. It's crazy. I don't know, but all I know is San Francisco, they say, so keep your eyes open stuff. It's supposed to have a wild, what is it called? The wild bloom?
Oh, it is now. I like that. Yay.
Yeah, they said because of the amount of rain, San Francisco is supposed to be getting this crazy bloom to where things are just gonna like go nuts and just bloom everywhere.
Oh, I
I'm
can't
excited.
wait. Oh my
Hmm.
God. I think it's going to be a good time to finally go visit the conservatory, the San Francisco Flower Conservatory. I haven't been in
Yes.
years, and I just think it would be so nice to just wander through the tulips. So,
Oh my
yeah,
God, I love that. I've never been there.
oh, let's go. Let's have
We
a
should.
nice
Let's
little
do
date.
it. I think
Yeah.
so.
Maybe
That
summer
would be
dresses.
fun. Yes. Oh my gosh, that would be, and then we could go have like tea or something,
Yeah. Or we could have a
right?
picnic in the park. How cute is
Yes.
that?
I know. It's so funny because we lived like so close to there, right? And
Yeah.
I didn't go, I haven't been to the Japanese tea garden. I haven't been to any, I didn't even go to Stowe Lake. I didn't even know where's Stowe Lake. That's in there, right?
Golden Gate Park.
Yeah. I've never even, Tony took me there for the first time. I never experienced Golden Gate Park to the way for, how much I should have being that I grew up there. But, anyways,
Oh,
I
that
don't know.
sorry. I'm planning in my head like the cutest little picnic in in the park. Like because we have like cute chairs. Like we go all out. We have like a
Oh.
one of those beach tents, not for Golden Gate, but when we go to Dolores Park, we straight up invested in one of those half tents so
Oh, I
that
saw
we
that
can
on
chill.
Insta. I
Yeah.
love it.
So
Very
we'll go
smart.
all out. Some cheese, a cheese platter.
Oh
Let's
my
do this. Let's plan it,
gosh.
Neen. Come
Oh my
on.
God, let's do it. Okay, I'm down. Okay, we'll have to chat because I
Okay.
love this idea. And I
Yay.
love the fact that Stowe Lake reminds me of you and Carrie.
Oh my God, because we would drive at night.
Yes.
to go see the late, supposedly the lady of the lake would move or something. If you look, the
Wow.
statue of the lady of the lake, something like the legend is she what, drowned her kids and
Oh God, I
then,
didn't even know that.
or is that La Llorona?
I think that's, yeah, I
Okay,
don't think
well,
that's the Stowe Lake, but there's
some
something there.
moron, yeah, made up a legend for the statue, and she's got kids with her, I think, in the statue too, if I'm not mistaken. And if you stare at her long enough or go at a certain point at night, she moves.
Oh my gosh. Okay, that's like the hillside one. Remember I told you that?
Can you tell the listeners about the hillside one? Because that one,
Oh
to this day,
man.
I hold my breath when we drive. Go.
Okay, so there's like a road where we grew up and it's in Daly City and it's on Hillside Boulevard. And Tony and I were both worked at the cemetery.
Mhm.
And so one year when we were there was a huge accident and someone died. I think two people died, but it was random because this road is pretty big. Like it's not like it's one, is there two lanes on each side? I think so, right?
Yeah,
Two.
yeah,
Okay,
I
so
believe so.
it's a two-lane road. Is that how you say that?
Yeah, I
Tony?
think so.
Okay. And so it's rather big, but it's not like small by any means. So at night, there's really not that many cars that pass by because it's pretty dark. And so it's parallel with a big mountain. And then you have like cemeteries all along that side. So when this car got in that accident, it rammed right into the wall and took down the bricks of the wall. And everybody was like, oh my gosh, how's this possible? Like, what happened? The driver apparently lost control and went right in to the wall, and
Mm.
these two people died, right? And there was four people in the car. So rumor has it, so after this happened, everybody was talking about it at the cemetery because apparently there is a rumor that there is a ghost that comes out at night on
Mm.
Hillside and basically is a hitchhiker and is asking for a ride. And if you don't pick her up, you
Ooh.
will basically she'll cause an accident. And it's crazy because there's been so many accidents that have transpired on this road and there's like no reason or rhyme behind it why these things happened whatsoever, because it's just like a freak accident and it's only usually one car involved. It's not like they went over and hit an oncoming car. It's like one car and they just spin out of control, and they think it's because she is hitchhiking and they realize either, oh my gosh, it's a ghost, and they go into the side of the wall, or she's picked them up, or what is it, or she hasn't picked them up and then she causes the accident, or because usually if they pick this person up, they're fine.
But okay, so my question about that is, because I remember you and Tony scaring the crap out of me with this. Now, when you pick her up, doesn't she sit in the back silently? And then how do you know
Hmm.
where to drop her off?
I know, right? Well, there's been a lot of accounts of like ghosts near the cemetery because Jesse, okay, Jesse saw a ghost on, so that part on El Camino where you could either go straight onto Mission Road or you could go right to continue onto El Camino, and it's
Yeah.
between, so you see the sundial by,
Yes.
okay, so Jesse could correct me if I'm wrong while she's listening to this. But she was coming back one night going towards Daly City, right? She was coming back from when she worked at the airport and she was with her friend. And literally, they were driving. It was like 2 a.m. And all of a sudden, Jesse, I think she said, slammed on her brakes because she saw this man crossing the road, and she slammed on her brakes, but there was no one there. But they both saw this man crossing the road slowly, but it was a ghost.
Okay, I'm home alone. Okay. How did we get started on the
I don't
scariness? I was
know.
so late. Oh my God.
I know. I know. I don't know
Ew.
but I know it went something like that. That's what she had said. But there's a lot of activity around there. A
Oh.
lot. And I mean, even when I worked at the cemetery, I was there late at night, doing stuff that I had to finish and whatever. And I was by myself sometimes in the building.
That's
And I
a
would
big
sit,
building too.
uh-huh, and I would sit at the bottom of the spiral staircase there. And I had my desk and I would be working, and I could sense that, like, I always had this sense that there was a whole bunch of people just
No,
standing on the
that's
stairs
What were
just
you
kind
doing
of.
there by yourself? I would have a chaperone with me.
I know. Well, I was always there by myself. Like I had to turn off the alarms, but I had to go throughout the whole bottom portion of the funeral home to like close all the lights. So I even had to go in the back with all the bodies and stuff and make sure all the
Goodbye.
lights were closed there. And I'd be like, la, la. It was actually super peaceful. And that's something actually that my dad and I had in common because it was just very,
You're not scared
no.
of death and dying and bodies.
Mm-mm. And it
Yeah.
because there was many times when I would close up, and I would close all the lights, and then I would go down the hall and go in the back towards the embalming room to, close all the lights back there because you had to make sure the lights were off, especially with the alarm. And I would come back and the light would be on. And it happened all the time. I would like, okay, document it. Okay, I'm closing this light, and I would go back in the back of the hallway, come back, and the light was on again.
Oh.
So, it's real.
But I just love how you are not scared. You're my hero
Aw,
because,
thanks.
yeah, no. Mm-mm.
Yeah. No, yeah, I don't want to say like, I think it's like, I always feel like when you feel like, oh, I love it, like it's
Yeah.
gonna, but
You're going to
it's
open up a
just,
can of worms,
yes,
literally. Like,
exactly.
come haunt me, everyone.
Yeah, but it's just interesting. I feel like, you have to be at peace with them, and but
Yeah.
it is scary. But anyways, in other news, I wanted to know, Steph, real quick, how do you feel about this whole Dalai Lama thing?
Oh God, Neen. Well, first of all, when I saw like the news of it, I was just heartbroken because I just think he's a lovely man. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and a spiritual leader.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate. I also feel like, are they taking into account that maybe there could be a slight language barrier? I'm not excusing what he
Mm-hmm.
did. I think it's like, oof, that's like, that's in poor taste. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure he didn't literally mean for the child to do that. I think it just came out wrong. Hopefully, I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt, but like, I'm sure people are going to be there. I've seen like the comments. I'm worried for his safety now at
Mm-hmm.
this point.
Yeah.
And I just, uh, yeah, I'm kind of cringed about it though. I'm just like, oh, how do you feel?
Yeah. I don't know. So if you're not aware of what happened with the Dalai Lama, look it up.
Yeah,
um, if you want. But basically, he was at some sort of like, I don't know, service, and a little boy, um, he either
asked
asked the little
for.
boy to come up or whatever,
No, I
and
think didn't the little boy go up to him and ask him for a hug or something? Ask the
some,
Dalai Lama for a
yeah,
hug.
something like that. And basically, the Dalai Lama asked him to put his tongue in his mouth, or if
He
he,
asked him to suck his tongue.
ah,
Told the little
see,
boy to suck his tongue.
see, and I didn't even want to say that. I was so scared. Not
I
scared, but
I
it's
didn't want to
so.
say it either. I didn't want to say it either, but
I couldn't even say it because it's so disturbing, and it's just like
oh,
I don't really know what kind
oh,
of spiritual awakening you can get from that or blessing. I don't know.
you know why though he said that? It's because he kissed the little boy on the lips. And then I think he was trying to make a joke, like suck my tongue, but it's
Uh,
not a joke. It's not funny. I'm not trying to like
the
make
way you
light of the
said it.
situation, but like it's a little boy and he's an old
Yes.
man. And how I feel about viejitos, but like there's
Mhm.
bad ones out there too. I'm praying to God that this is a one-off.
Yeah. I don't
And
know. Yeah. It's
he
disturbing. It really
he
is.
apologized, but yeah.
He did, and it's one of those things that I feel like, and no offense to anybody that loves the Dalai Lama or, praises him, but for myself, I'm a Christian, but this is one of those things that I feel like a lot of times we put such importance on like these prophets that we as a society over history have created, and it gives them this sense of power, or like, oh my gosh, and in the Christian community we call it, like a false prophet, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
not saying that he's false, I don't know, only God knows that, but um seeing that video, I showed Tony because he hadn't seen it, hadn't heard
Mm,
anything about it. And when I go, just look at this
mm,
yesterday, he looked at it and Tony was in shock. Like literally, I was like, hello. He was like, I can't believe what I just saw. And I was
mm.
like, that's how I felt. And I just, you know, I don't know. It's just very disturbing. And hopefully we don't start hearing more accounts of stuff coming from this.
Well, we might, because now people are going to start digging, and again, they
Yeah,
should, especially if there's victims out there. But
definitely.
you know, they're the people who are like mad and rightfully so are being like, well, look at, it's not the first time you hear about a religious leader, being
Hmm.
inappropriate with children. And they talk about the priests that give all priests bad names, and then that turns
Yes.
into a talk about the Catholic faith and everything, and
Hmm.
it's just like, it's just a whirlwind. And again, I just hope that he takes some time to reflect,
Hmm.
and his people around him coach him. Like, if you're joking, that's not a good, that we shouldn't joke like that. Maybe write his things out for him, maybe tell him not to freestyle anymore. And that's that. I
Yeah.
really hope it was just a, you know,
Keep your
language
tongue in your
thing.
mouth. Okay.
Yeah. Oh,
and,
oh,
and don't be trying to suck on it. Like suck on other people's tongues. That's
ew,
just gross,
God.
especially
I feel
in this day and age of COVID and crap. Don't be doing that.
I feel
I
dirty.
just,
I
I
feel
do too.
obscene.
And I don't want to say it's maybe a lack of education because I'm assuming he's very smart, but I don't know. He did, from what I know, is the Dalai Lama. I don't know if you know how the Dalai Lama is chosen, but he's the 14th Dalai Lama, and they're
Oh,
chosen from a very young age. Um, so he was born apparently like in a small village in Tibet, and he came from like a very poor family. Like,
mm.
and so when he was young, though, he was recognized when he was 2 years old to be a reincarnation of his predecessor, the 13th Dalai
Wow.
Lama. So you're chosen when you're super, super young. So, you're given this kind of like, you know, like you're famous. You're like a god, right?
Right.
So I don't know. I mean, yeah, it's very disturbing. And it's just like you said, it's unfortunate, and hopefully he learns from this experience. And yeah, I don't know. I'm
He might be
it
getting
was
canceled
shocking.
though. He might be getting
Yeah.
canceled if he hasn't been already. So, because we
Yeah,
are in a cancel culture. And
we are.
again, if he is shady and nasty with kids, then he should be. Because,
Oh,
uh-uh.
absolutely. I mean, for me personally, I feel like this, you like you said, we both have a very tender heart when it comes to viejitos and
Hmm.
old people in general, but if he is showing signs or
Nasty.
yeah, of grossness, like then you need to be canceled. And I don't even want to say canceled, but you need to be removed, you
Yes, I
know,
agree.
and taught that is not appropriate. Because who
Hmm.
knows? And I don't want to say this, but maybe it was a cultural thing. Because there are many cases, and I'm not making an excuse for this because it's not. But even in the court, when I worked for the court, I heard some cases where um, certain cultural things that people do sometimes are to Americans, or maybe other cultures looked on as being very predatory or inappropriate.
Oh,
And in reality, that's just how they do it. Like, that's just not, it's kind of like, oh, aloof. Like, they don't even think because this is something they've been doing forever.
right.
And so, not to say that's the case here. We don't know. I mean, like you said, I'm sure we'll hear more in the days to come, but it was very disturbing.
Mm,
Okay. Cause shoot, I like the
yeah.
Dalai Lama.
So do I. Oh,
But
yeah, yeah.
I
It's
don't
just
know.
not lots of crap in the news, like the
It
shooting in
is.
Louisiana, the shooting. I'm still not over the shooting from a couple weeks ago. Dallas? No. Why am I
Tennessee.
blanking? Okay.
Was it Tennessee? Nashville,
Thank you.
right?
Yes, Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
Just it's just, it's not
Yeah.
like I just sometimes want to just go beam myself off to Mars or something. Like, and just I feel like we're just done. The
Yeah.
people, I'm done with people.
Mm-hmm. No, for real. And the problem is that we just don't know anymore. Like, you think you're safe, but are you really?
Exactly. Like the
You
places
know?
that you're supposed to be safe in, you're just
Mm-hmm.
not.
No, I mean,
So,
these things are happening in areas where you would assume you're safe. And I mean, just the other day, I was talking to someone over here and they were saying to be careful when you go to Target because there was a lady that got robbed. Literally, she was getting in her car and someone came up behind her, hit her with a crowbar,
what the
and yeah, and took her purse and whatever she had in her car and left her there. And she was able to drive home because they left the key, but he took her purse and everything. And it was just like, oh my gosh, like, okay. Tony's like, okay, you need to be careful. Because I go places by myself all the time, but you never know nowadays. I mean, there's so many things, little things. Like people say, if you see money now on the floor, don't pick it up because
oh
it could be laced
God.
with stuff that makes you pass out and then people rob you or kidnap you.
I just saw an SVU to that effect
Yeah,
the other
see?
day. Yeah. Oh my
Mm-mm.
God. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
So
guys,
on
don't pick
that
up
note,
money.
be careful out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But today, though, on Fridays with Neen,
Ooh.
we are going to talk about something that's near and dear to my heart and something that I refer to a lot. We both do throughout the podcast, whether it be just life experiences or whatever, and something that changed me for, I guess you could say for the better, but it was something that's very traumatizing at the same time, was my accident.
Hmm.
And I don't want to make it this episode about the accident. I want to make it more about how to appreciate life and
Hmm.
how, in a blink of an eye, life can be just done. It could be over. So, and it's something that I learned through a traumatic experience. So,
Hmm.
when I was 15, I had just started high school. Steph and I were besties. Okay. And it was April. So it was the spring of 1996. And my parents, so it was my parents, their wedding anniversary, along with Easter Sunday. And Steph, you weren't in the city at
I
that
was
time,
in
right?
I was in Disneyland.
Yes. And that morning I got up. I remember it was a foggy morning. We lived near the coast, so the fog was insane in that
Yeah.
area. It's to where you get that tule fog to where you can't see in front of you day or night. It's ridiculous. So we're driving to church, my parents and I. My parents had a Bronco. Was it a Bronco? A Blazer, Chevy Blazer. And it was a two-door. So I'm sitting in the back, my mom and dad, my dad's driving, my mom's in the passenger seat. And it's super foggy. And my mom's like, looks back at me. And at that moment, when she looked back at me, my purse had fallen off the floor. I mean, off the seat, and it's on the floor, and all my stuff is on the floor because the zipper was open. So I'm took off my seatbelt, and my mom goes, "Hey, Justine, it's really foggy. Do you have your seatbelt on?" And I'm like, "Oh,
Oh.
mom, I just took it off. I'm picking up all the stuff from my purse, right?" And she's like, "Well, hurry up and put your seatbelt on. It's so foggy." And I'm like, "Okay." Well, right when I said, "Okay," all of a sudden I didn't know what the hell happened, but my dad pressed on the gas trying to get around this car that had was coming towards us. And we ended up the car hit us. We hit the island with the light and we flipped over
Oh
two
my God.
times. So the first time that the truck flew over or rolled over, I remember sitting in the car and I was just like, "Oh my gosh, what is going on?" And I could still see everything in slow motion, like you're just like tipping over, and I could hear the crushing of the metal. The radio, I guess, had gone haywire, so it was like to the max with the static, right? And I'm just like, "Oh my gosh." So then all of a sudden, I'm like wake up and I'm like outside of the car and I'm on the road and I'm like sitting with my legs crossed and literally just like I just sat there myself. And I turn and I look up and I turn around and I see the truck on its roof, and my parents are still in there.
Oh my God.
And so I'm sitting there in shock, and the people that hit us are still in their car. And I could clearly see it's like a whole family, and they're still in their car. They don't get out. And then you see all the people at the light waiting for it to change, but they can't go anywhere because the accident's covering the intersection, and nobody is getting out to help us. So I'm like, oh my God, my parents, because just like you would be like, oh my God, I need to get my parents out of the car. Right.
Mhm.
So I get out. And at that time, when I get up, my dad is climbing. I could see him coming, trying to get out of the back window, but my mom is still stuck. So, you know how they say when you're like that adrenaline kicks in?
Yes.
Um, I go to get the door, and it's jammed, and I can't get my mom, like get to my mom.
Oh,
But, you don't know your strength. You know how they say mothers could pick up like a freaking car or whatever to
yes.
rescue their child. That's how I was with my mom, because the car was smashed like in her area and it was jammed. But with all my might, I opened that door with the metal like screeching on the pavement, and I pull my mom out. So when I pull my mom out, my mom had this white dress on that my dad had just bought her from what is that? What's that preppy store?
Ann Taylor,
Kind of like
Talbot's.
Banana Republic.
Oh, okay.
It was Banana Republic, and it was this beautiful white dress that my mom was wearing for their anniversary that my dad had given her, and we were going to church. So when I picked her up, and right when I picked her up, that's when the paramedics came and the fire department.
So someone
So
finally called someone. Where's the,
yes,
sorry to interrupt, but what the hell is the people in the car doing? Are they still sitting in
they're
their
still
car?
sitting in the car. Nobody was even out of their, nobody, not one person. I mean, like, I was 15, and you could clearly tell that I was a teenager. Like, I didn't look like an old lady. Okay. Like, nobody came to my rescue. And I think that is the one thing that really kind of sticks with me to this day, because I understand a lot of people don't want to get involved, but you don't have to get involved to help someone and comfort and be like, let me, even just having someone there saying, we're
Like,
calling the police. Are you okay?
yeah,
Someone's
helping you get your
coming.
mom out.
Yes,
I
exactly.
hope.
Nobody
Ugh.
helped, right? So I get my mom out. By that time, the paramedics there, they grab her because they see that she's bleeding. She has blood all over her white dress. So I'm like, oh my gosh, because that's like your worst fear is
Mhm.
your parents, I mean, dying, like what the hell's going on?
Yes.
And so she looks at me and she passes out. So the paramedics are like, "Oh my gosh, she's passed out. What's going on? She must be bleeding internally." So they open her dress and they're like, "She's has no cuts. Like, we don't know where all this blood is coming from." Meanwhile, I'm like wandering, like in shock, wondering what the hell just happened, because it's one of those like, and it's funny because in your brain everything's in slow motion. And it's funny how like in movies when you see like a bombing happen or something tragic, right? And how everything's in slow motion or
Yeah,
like
and
it's
kind of
quiet.
hazy
Yes,
too.
exactly. That's exactly how it feels. It felt like, because there was so much commotion going on at that time, but for me everything was so quiet, and it's just like I was just like kind of like spanning the perimeter, and I was just like, okay, has this really just happened right now? So at that time my dad was already out, and they're like trying to figure out why is this lady bleeding but there's no cuts. So all of a sudden a paramedics come up to me and they're like, can we just see you because you were in the back seat, and did you climb out? I said, no, I was ejected from the car. And they were like, what? And you're walking around? And I said, yeah, I'm fine. So he goes, okay, well, let's just give you a little, physical or whatever you want to, let's just check
Yeah.
you out, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And so I go, okay. So he looks
Oh
at
my.
my sweater. And when he looks at my sweater, my arm
Yeah.
literally looked like a weed whacker had hit it. It had shards of glass, dirt, and it was just all cut up. Then I had another cut on my shoulder that was had glass in it. And then he lifts up my skirt. Okay. And I was wearing those patent leather shoes that I wore
Oh, the
to the Father
blue ones.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I lifted up my skirt and I literally had a 12-inch cut that looked like, you know how when you overcook a hot dog and how
Mm.
it opens? That's exactly how my leg looked. And it had a huge piece of the window in it. And I had no clue. I literally had helped my mom get out of the car, and I'm walking around like, nobody's business, not realizing that I have glass and everything all over. And so the paramedics like, "Oh my god, you need to like sit down right now because you have main arteries in your leg, and literally any little movement can sever that and you could bleed out." And I'm like, "Oh my god." And they're like,
And
"You
you
don't
were
feel any pain?" I didn't feel nothing, nothing whatsoever. And I was just like, "Oh my gosh." And still, even when he told me that, I still had no clue. So then they realized, "Oh my gosh, you helped your mom out of the car. That's why she has all this blood on her because of your arm from
oh
picking
my
her up."
God.
And I was like, "Yeah, I guess so." So they put my mom on the stretcher. They have me walk into the paramedic, and I'm sitting there because my mom still's in shock and she's like, you know, literally passed out. And so they take us to the hospital and it's on Easter Sunday. There's like no doctors there at the hospital. We had to wait like 6 or 7 hours because they were going to take all of the glass out of my arm and all the dirt and clean it out. But there were so many cuts that it would have been too much for me. I mean, I was only 15, and literally I was sitting there on the gurney in the hospital room in the emergency, and I looked down and it was just a pool of blood. Like all my blood was just coming out. So they had to hire a plastic surgeon all the way from, I think it was like Santa Rosa, to come and do the surgery for me. So I had to wait for him to come. And I ended up getting out later that night, and we go home, and it's one of those things too, like going home, it was just like everything still was in slow motion. I could still tell the way the sun was, and we had seen a car accident on our way home, and my dad was like, "Close your eyes, Justine, just close your eyes, don't look at it," and because I was just like freaking out. And so the next day the police department came to take a report and asked me what had happened. And my dad had told me he was coming, and I was so nervous because I was just like, "Oh my gosh." I knew I didn't have my seatbelt on, and I hadn't really known what caused the accident, so I didn't know that a car had really hit us. So I was afraid somehow that my dad was going to get in trouble by me not having my seatbelt on, because I was a minor. I didn't know what the hell to think because I was scared. So the police officer comes and he's like, "Justine, can you just tell me what happened?" Blah, blah, blah. And the first question he asks, "Did you have your seatbelt on?" And I looked at him and I was just like,
Oh.
and I didn't want to answer. And he was like, "It's okay if you didn't have your seatbelt on." He's like, "I never would tell anybody not to wear their seatbelt." He was like, "But where you were sitting," he's like, "the fact that you didn't have your seatbelt on literally saved your life." He was like, "Because where you were sitting, the roof was completely collapsed. So if you were stuck in your seatbelt, you probably would have broke your neck and died." Yeah. And I'm
Oh.
like, "Oh my gosh." And when he said that, I was just like, "Oh my God." Like I had already been dealing with the fact that my parents, because I didn't think of myself. I was thinking of
Right.
the fact that I almost lost my parents. Like
Of
that was so
course.
scary. Like, you know how we are with our parents.
Of
Like,
course. And you saw them with the car flipped over.
yes,
Of
exactly. The
course.
fact that like I could have lost them. I was just like, "Oh
Oh.
my goodness," And then when he told me that I could have died, then I think, "Oh my God, my mom would have just thrown herself over a cliff," like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those things that I just couldn't get over at all. And it's so the anniversary of our accident just came up on April 7th. And it's so funny because doesn't matter where I'm at, how old I'm at. I mean, it's been over 20 years, you know,
Yeah.
um, well over 20 years. I want to say, what, let's see, I'm 41 and it happened when I was 15. So it was like 26 years ago, right?
41 minus 26. Good math.
Yeah. Yeah, 26 years ago, and it still affects me to this day as far as April's concerned. And
Of
it's
course.
the from April 1st all the way to like the 15th, I don't do well with April. Like April's one of those months, and I'm don't want to say I'm a very superstitious person because
Hmm.
I'm not, but when it comes to April, that's where my superstition kicks in
Hmm.
because I don't like to go on trips during that time frame. I don't like my loved ones taking long adventures. Last year Tony had to get his kidney stones removed on April 7th, and when he had picked the date, I said, "Ooh, can you not?" And he's like, "Why?" And I go, "I just can't. Like something about that day, I just can't commit to anything, or it freaks me out because it's a bad day in my history,
Of
right?"
course.
And so of course, I go, you know what? No. So he ended up doing the kidney surgery. Everything turned out fine. I go, you know what? I can't succumb to these feelings, or I just got to push through, and believe
Mhm.
and have
But
faith that
also,
everything's going to be okay.
trust your gut, because your gut, you have a good one.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you. Oh, you know, and it's true. Like, and that's the thing. If it doesn't feel right, just
Hmm.
don't, go with it. Right. Don't dismiss it. That's,
Yeah.
my advice in all aspects, not just with anything like this, but also relationships. If your gut's telling you no,
Oh.
listen to it because it
Hmm.
doesn't lie.
Mm-mm.
But yeah, looking back though, and the post traumatic stress that I had with it, um, it was a huge one because literally the person I was prior to April 7th on that day in 1996, I feel like I changed from a little kid mentality to more of a mature mindset where I looked at my peers not to where I was looking down on them, but more so looking at them like they don't know what it's like to almost die or lose everything that is important to you.
In a
And
blink.
yeah, and I never could get to this day. I still think about, and I have that feeling. Like there's a feeling that you get when you almost die, or and it's like where your heart stops and you think, "Oh my gosh." And like I said in one of my episodes is I've never had that feeling where life changes so quickly. And it was the only other time I experienced that was when I had Presley, where one minute you're one way and the next minute your life's completely different, you know?
Can you describe that feeling? Like, is there does your stomach, is it in your stomach? Do you sweat? Like, what is the physical
Um,
reaction that you get?
I must say, because it must be accounts that people have explained to like movie people, because the way
Yeah.
they put it in movies is the perfect depiction
Okay.
on how you kind of like in my head, like right now, I could think and I could see us driving and then everything's fine. We're having a great day. Like we're about to go to church. It's Easter. It's my parents' anniversary. We're all happy, whatever. And then bam, it's over.
And you can
And
hear the sound of
yes,
the crash and the
exactly.
fog and
Uh-huh. And now, like, oh my gosh, like
yeah.
literally our whole lives changed.
Hmm.
Like it's and the way it is in movies and how they like, you stop and all of a sudden you could think back to that moment and it's like a picture. You're in like a movie, like this tunnel where that's all you could think about, and it makes you get this feeling of, oh my gosh, my life will never be the same again. And and that's the thing is like, I don't want to focus so much on just the fact that, for what I went through is nothing compared to what a lot of people go through, especially people that were in war or, have seen things like being in the military. I mean, I can't even imagine. Like, I could imagine the PTSD that they have, which is real. But for me being little and having to deal with those emotions, because it's like, it's kind of feels like that pit in your stomach or that lump you get in your throat when you're sad or you want to cry. And, for me, it's just like that feeling of, oh my gosh, my life is just completely changed. And everything that I appreciate or didn't appreciate before, I want to appreciate now.
Wow.
I mean, little things like, looking at a flower and
Hmm.
being like, oh my gosh, and I could see why people, even people like they say that maybe aren't very religious, and have no or don't have any type of spirituality when they are faced with these circumstances. A lot of times it takes them to a different level where they seek that because there's such a hollowness for a long time where you're searching for more because you want to know why. Like it's that question of why. Why did this happen to me? And for a long time, that's what I struggled with that year because I was like, I looked at my friends like in school and I'm like, oh my gosh, they're just so happy or whatever. And I was happy, but you kind of get in this like mode where you feel sorry for yourself
Of
because
course.
you're just like, why did this have to happen? Here I am limping around, you know, I felt like I was never going to be the same again. Like in the car, I didn't like driving with anybody. I mean, I was horrible in the car. My dad would be driving and I'd be like pressing the brake
Emergency,
on my
your
side,
imaginary break.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And or I'd be screaming like stop, when he was like way far behind. But in my head, we were already slamming into the car in front of us.
Wow.
In my head, I went there. I went there with everything. And it was so bad to where my parents put me into counseling. So I went and saw a psychologist because I had to deal with this PTSD that I was dealing with. And she told me, and I remember her asking me, what is it that I know you're here for the accident, but what is it about the accident that bothered you? And I said, I just can't get over the fact that I went from this normal life and now I'm dealing with the fact that I could have died and it scared me. And I don't know how to get past that. Like I'm stuck. Just stuck. And so, we worked through it. I worked with her for like a year and it helped a lot. But even as I'm older, I still get stuck sometimes. And that's why the whole purpose of me talking about my accident was because I feel like, especially this day and age, and just like we were talking about prior, I feel like nowadays people don't value life as much as they should. And we have a sense of just like especially young people, and I think it's normal for young people, we have an idea that we're always going to be here.
We're invincible.
Very much so, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
And the thing is like, I always say, like, when I see people driving crazy and stuff, I'm like, gosh, it's not me being a snob or stuck up, but at the same time, it's just like, your freaking car is a weapon. I don't believe that if you are caught, in reckless driving, that should be a freaking felony to where your privileges are taken away.
Here, here.
There are so many
Seriously.
people that die because people are just careless. They could care less. They want to drive fast. They want to go in and out of lanes.
Yeah. Also, I really thinking about the stupid driver that caused all of this.
Mhm.
I really hope that do you know what happened to them? Like, do you know, like,
So
I know
they
I'm jumping
were,
ahead, but like, I
oh
hope
no,
that
it's
they had to
okay.
pay for this.
Um, so they did
All
not
right.
they had insurance, but they had liability.
Uh-huh. What does that mean for
So,
people like me who don't drive?
so it's the cheapest form
Oh
of
God.
insurance that you can get.
Uh-huh.
Um, so it's not full coverage. So
Mm-hmm.
basically, I think it only covers, let me see what liability covers, because that's actually a good question, just for in case you're wondering, because everybody always assumes, oh, I'll just get liability. That'll never happen.
Well, here, but while you're looking that up,
Mhm.
so because they have shitty insurance, that's their fault then, right? So they have to pay out of pocket and pay, right?
Mhm.
You're going to tell me that, right?
Yes. Yes. Okay. So
Okay.
liability coverage helps pay for injuries or damages to others when you are responsible. If you own and drive a vehicle, you must follow the financial responsibility of the laws in the state that you live in. So basically, I believe it's 15,000 for liability that you could pay someone. I think the max is 30 depending on whatever, but for me, it was only 30,000 that they paid.
Why? It's their fault they had shitty insurance. So
Yeah.
how come they get, so why doesn't everyone just get liability insurance then?
Exactly. No, for
Wait,
real.
that
It's
doesn't make
just
sense.
it's a choice that you have. Now, I guess we could have like sued them
Uh-huh.
for like their house or whatever, gone further with it. I'm not too sure why, because we
Oh,
did
I
have
see
an
what you're
attorney and
saying.
stuff.
Yeah.
Because my mom wanted to go like cutthroat, right? Because it was nothing against Korean people, but they were a Korean family that were going to church. So they were going to church too. And basically what they said happens, they said it was so foggy. So they were going northbound, we were going southbound. And so they were turning left to make a left turn. So
Mhm.
they assumed that they had a green light to turn left, when in reality they were had a red light to turn left. So they went through the green light that was for the people going straight,
Mhm.
and when they did that, we were had a green light going south, and they hit us. So, which is stupid, because when you think about it, I mean, a big highway like that, you're not looking for a green arrow.
Exactly.
So, and it was him, his daughter, and his two kids that were in the car.
And no
And
scratches on them, right?
none. No, oh, none. They had a Volvo, and it literally had like a ding. A
I'm
ding.
pissed. I'm
Mm-hmm.
pissed off. But the fact that they that again, I don't understand. So, okay, they had liability, you got like whatever the liability, right? And then that's it for them unless you choose to sue. That's how that works. So they put all the burden
Mm-hmm.
on the victim, just
Mm-hmm.
like in a rape case, the
Yeah.
burden falls on the victim, well, not the
Mm-hmm.
criminal.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, I'm
Mm-hmm.
sorry. I just
Yeah.
wanted to know because I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's just like, I mean, and that's the thing is like, I dealt with a lot, like, especially like physically, as far as like even just my self-esteem, because I
Mhm.
had these scars that were so, like, to me, like when I look at them now, they're like nothing. But back then, you're young. I was like at the peak of like puberty,
Yeah.
right? And your hormones are crazy. I'm just like, oh, I look so ugly. Like
No.
I have like, all these people I felt like people were always looking at my arm because it was a lot more like noticeable back then. But it's funny, even now, like when I worked at the court, like 10, 15 years ago, do you know how many attorneys? And this is how, like, to me, let this be a lesson. Okay, I'm not saying I have a deformity of any form, but I do
No.
have scars. Okay. And the thing is that let this be a lesson. And this is something that I've taught Presley. Do not stare. Do not stare at people. It is so, I hate freaking people that stare.
I
And it's
hate,
so
yeah.
rude. And as someone that has something that maybe people can look at, like, what's that? Just ask. It's not offensive to me for you to ask me, oh man, what happened to your arm?
That's
You know?
literally like the same when people are like, "Oh, when's your baby due?" to someone and someone's
Yes.
not pregnant. Just don't
Hmm.
say anything unless the
No.
information is offered up or
Yes.
or ask a question.
Hmm.
Okay? Did you get
Yes.
fat? Like what? Like this, I hate people. Oh my God. I
Hmm.
used to have a friend
Hmm.
that would constantly be asked if she was pregnant.
Wow. See? And you know what? And you can't
Yes.
be doing that, especially with women. Well, obviously with women. Um but there's some people's bodies when they gain weight,
Yeah.
especially like they say like people that have like diabetes or whatever, like their stomach it kind of looks bloated, kind of like a
Mhm.
beer belly.
Mhm.
And it's just how people get fat deposits in random places. And some
Mhm.
people get it in their stomach and it becomes, it looks like a belly, like a pregnant belly. Don't ask people. I don't
Just let them be.
understand how's it even possible. After I had Presley, obviously I loved my maternity genes. I love them. But then after this lady asked me, I was like done with them because, so I don't know if you've ever seen maternity genes, but it's like, it cuts off kind of like at your pelvic bone or like, yeah, like, I don't know, where like a C-section cut would be. And then it has like nylon that goes all the way up and they're
Ooh.
so comfortable. So
Wow.
comfortable. And obviously when you're recovering from pregnancy, you're still sore or you
Yeah.
don't have like the ability to like suck it in as much.
Yeah.
So those type of pants are very comfy. So when I was working at the cemetery, I was wearing all my pregnancy pants even after I had Presley because I was still healing.
Well,
And
also you
so
had really cute pregnancy clothes,
oh,
so
thanks. And I really
yeah.
loved the way because they flared, and I just
Oh,
loved
you
the
love
way
a
they
good
were.
flare. You
Okay,
love a good
sure
flare.
do. This should be my middle name. But this lady goes,
Oh,
"Oh my gosh, how many months are you?"
I'm flipping
I
that
was
lady
like,
off.
"Yeah." I go, no months. I have a 2 month old. You ho. I was so annoyed. I was so annoyed.
Oh my
I was like, oh
God.
my God. So I immediately went home, threw all my freaking pregnancy clothes out, and was like, okay, girlfriend, you need to start, That's why, my mom, like, you wear like a faja or like
Girl, some
something
Skims.
to hold it in. But I was just like, oh, I feel so free,
Oh
but
my God.
it happens. But
No.
when I was at the court, people with my arm, because
Yeah.
the way my desk was is I had my desk and there was a window there that people could come and talk to me or ask me questions through the window. And so attorneys a couple times would come and they'd be staring, and these are attorneys, not even the public, okay? The attorneys would come and say, "Are you a cutter?"
Oh, I wasn't expecting you to say
Uh-huh.
that. Like,
And
is
I
this like
go,
somebody you knew, like
um,
personally?
uh-huh. Yeah. And I'm like, no, I had a car accident and was ejected from the window. And all of this cuts and stuff that you see on my arm is from the glass and the gravel from the ground. And so he's like, and the two were like, oh my gosh. But you know what is crazy is Tony thought I was a cutter.
Oh my God.
He
Oh,
never told me until we were together and stuff. And obviously, he found out why my arm was like that. And he's like, oh my gosh, Justine, do you know when I first met you and I saw your arm? I never asked you, but I assumed you would cut yourself. And I was like, why didn't you just ask me? And he was like, well, I didn't want to embarrass you. Like, I know that that's a personal thing. And a lot of people that cut tend to try and hide their arms, because they don't want to be you know, they don't want people to know that.
right.
And with my cuts, I mean, they are like cuts. And I said, no, it's not. I mean, but people are going to assume whatever they want, but just ask. Like, it's
Yeah,
not
that's
that big of
true.
a deal.
Ay, Dios mío,
So
people. I'm moving
the
to Mars.
crazy, I know, the crazy part about all of this though, and it's one of the things that I just stand by and I'll forever stand by, and this, is that I don't take life or my loved ones for granted anymore. And I didn't from that moment on. And I think that's what made me, like your mom always said, you're such an old soul. But I think that I always was since I was little, but more so once this happened because I
Of
had a greater
course.
respect for just life in general and how
Yeah.
quickly it could be taken away. And, no matter the type of argument I have with someone or disagreement or whatever, no matter what, whether it be my mom, my dad at the time, Tony, um, I don't want to ever go to bed angry. And I know that's such a
Mhm.
cliche and never, people always say that all the time, but I'm sure that saying came from someone that lost someone.
Exactly. And I live by that thanks to you. You taught
Mhm.
me that. And that's something that I will always apply in my life,
Mhm.
always, and call people. Like last
Mhm.
night, for example, I got home really tired after dance class and it was
Mhm.
like 10 something. I'm washing dishes and I was like, oh, I'll just call my dad tomorrow. And I was like,
Mhm.
you know what? No, I'm going to call him right now. You're
Yeah.
always in my, because I learned that
See?
from you. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like you just
Aw.
have to. And your accident, like for me, like I remember this proved to me how connected you and I are because I was in Disneyland
Mhm.
and all of a sudden, like I felt weird. I
Yeah.
can't explain it. I felt like this wave of something come over me and I thought of you. I don't know if I called you or I called you the next day. I think that I know we talked because
Mhm.
and you told me what happened and I was like, "Oh my God." Like I
Mhm.
felt you were in my mind and that
Yeah.
was just like, "Oh my God." I was so like upset like about the whole
Mhm.
thing and just seeing you after the fact and you're on your crutch. Oh my God, it was just like, but
Mhm.
you did it with such grace and such like no one could tell that you were struggling or that you were struggling emotionally. You're very stoic about it.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
remember that. So hearing you say, like I'm 15, I'm it's puberty and I'm going through that and now this on top of it and you just want to feel sorry for I never ever got that from you. I was like,
Mm.
how is she doing that? She's
Mhm.
very almost regal. Like you were
Mhm.
just like with your crutches and you're, whatever, and there's my locker. I don't need help from
Mhm.
anyone and blah blah blah. But not like annoying, like I can do it myself. No, you were just like, okay. And it was so inspiring. And
Mm.
yeah,
Thank
I
you.
totally commend you because I for sure like I have an anxiety when it comes to being in cars, but that I was never in an accident. This comes from like secondhand anxiety with my dad who
Mhm.
I'm obsessed with, and
Yeah.
like, so like the thought of I could have lost him, when I was
Mhm.
7, that like really stuck with me. And the fact that you're a driver and you're able to and you're one of the safest drivers. Like I
Mhm.
never press my imaginary brake when I'm in the car with you. And I don't, and I'm always pressing that brake,
And I
and
remember you saying that. You're like, you're
yeah,
one of the only people that I feel safest in the car with. And I was like, oh
yeah.
my gosh. And you know what? I make it my mission. Tony probably will challenge me on this because for some reason he's always saying that I make him nervous, but I don't see how. But for me, when I turned 15 and this happened, my goal after this was to get my license. And it was
Oh,
because I couldn't be a passenger.
yeah,
I needed to have control over, and that's why I had asked you one time. I think it was
yeah.
you, or either was I think it was you, where you would think that it would give you more security by being the driver versus being the passenger, because that's how it
Right.
was for me.
Yeah.
Because
No.
at least I have control over the brake and the gas and where I'm going to go or if I want to take the freeway or not. You know what I mean? Versus being someone that's just at the hands
Vulnerable.
of the driver.
Right. But my thing is that I don't trust people outside.
Mhm.
I don't trust other drivers.
Yeah, and
And
that's true.
and the thing is, if I had it my way, I would just walk everywhere. I freaking hate being in cars. Loathe
Mhm.
it, despise it. It's this thing, and I'm uncomfortable. I get car sick because of my nerves. I'm just like,
Mm.
so I just really, commend you for like you're taking your fear and you took it and you used it to fuel what you needed inside of you to like get your license and get control over the
Mhm.
situation. And you
Yeah,
did it. And that's huge.
exactly, and that's how I've been
Mhm,
since that point. It's something
mhm.
that for me, I'm sorry, I keep itching my nose, but I have like a piece of fuzz or something that's like hitting me. It's driving me nuts. But it's something that for me that has fueled my life since then.
Mhm.
And I always, I know there's a lot of things that people go through, whether it be something like an accident or a fire they're in, or even like a sexual, abuse situation when they're
Right.
younger, or whatever it is that you are dealt with when you're younger. And for me, one thing that my dad always instilled in me was, and I'm not saying that you have a right to be a victim because you are,
Mhm.
but when I feel like those emotions you feel when you are challenged with something or faced with something, you should use those emotions to create more of a power in you to do better and to thrive and to teach others that, okay, yeah, I went through this, but you're going to be okay. And you can get through it versus self loathing and feeling sorry for yourself because it
Mhm.
doesn't get you anywhere. Like I could have sat there and been like, like, oh my gosh, I almost died, and telling everybody my sob story, right? Making people feel sorry for me.
Mhm.
But I didn't want to do that. Like I wanted to be like, okay, yeah, I went through this and that's my story, but I'm not going to let it define who I am. I mean, and when you hear other things that I've been through, this isn't the first time that I was in a life or death. Like I feel like, okay, I feel like it's like following me around. I feel like God has other plans for me. I'm not too sure what it is yet. Maybe I've already experienced these things, but I don't know, because even a fire that I had, remember, I don't that
Yes.
house I had in San Bruno, I
Yes.
literally, the house almost exploded and my alarm went off before, like, and when it wasn't supposed to. I turned
Right.
off the alarm, and my husband at the time turned off the alarm. He double checked the same alarm. Why did our clock alarm go off anyway? And we wake up in a daze and freaking our house was on fire. We had no clue whatsoever. And the fire department was like, um, literally, if you didn't call us within 2 minutes, your house probably would have blown up in flames because the flame was so close to the water heater.
Amazing. Like seriously, that killed me when, oh
Uh-huh.
my God. Well, geez, like God does have other plans for you because you have narrowly escaped so much. So accident, fire, and then with pretzel,
Yeah.
right?
Yes, that's right. With Presley too, because the anesthesiologist, when I went in, and that's always good. So if you're a mom and you have a C-section, this is something they don't tell you, and they should explain to you what you're going to experience when you have a epidural.
Mhm.
So you're only supposed to feel numb from, I believe it's like where you're right below your breast down. So, and they start to prick you with like a little stick, and they're like touching you. Can you feel this? Can you feel this? And they go up and up and up. So
Oh.
when I was laying on my back and they were prepping me for the C-section, I started to feel a heaviness on my chest. And I was like, I feel really like I can't breathe. But it's normal when you have a baby. You're not supposed to lay on your back, but when you have all that weight, it's normal for you
Oh,
to not be able to breathe, right?
yeah.
So I'm like, oh, it's probably just because I'm laying flat on my back. So I didn't think
Hmm.
anything of it. All of a sudden, the anesthesiologist is checking me and he's like, can you feel here? Can you feel here? And he starts going up towards my neck. I can't feel anything. All of a sudden, because everything was honky dory, okay,
Yeah, you're like,
up
what
in the,
up?
yeah, like, oh my gosh, this is great. They're talking about what they had for dinner last night. Like everything's great. All of a sudden, the curtain goes up, people are panicking, and she's out within 5 minutes. And I'm like, what the hell just transpired?
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
2 days later, they come take my blood pressure. It's like 100 over something. I tell the nurse, "Oh my gosh, my blood pressure has never been that low. This is amazing." And she's like, "Well, honey, after what you've been through, it's
Yeah.
going to take a couple weeks for your blood pressure to get to where it should be." Come to find out, the anesthesiologist put the epidural too high, and it was shutting down my heart and my lungs. And I was literally dying.
Mm.
So that's why the rush was happening, because they had to get her out and also reverse the anesthesia or do whatever they do. I don't know, to,
And then
stop.
fire the anesthesiologist.
Yeah. And the crazy part is they didn't even tell me what had happened. They told my
Oh,
parents everything was fine, everything went great, never mentioned it.
of course they didn't. I hope you sued the
So,
hell out of them.
right, I should have. There you go. I mean, in a nutshell, though, I'm just saying, when you love people, when you are angry with someone, when
Hmm.
you are having a bad day, just remember, like, these storms aren't forever. they will pass, and you have to evaluate in your life what is important. Walking across the street, okay, doesn't guarantee that you're going to make it there.
Right.
Okay. Going to sleep at night doesn't guarantee that you're going to wake up in the morning. So you always have to remember that if you fall asleep or someone you love falls asleep and they die, are you going to be okay with that? With everything that transpired before that, are you going to be okay and fulfilled with how your life with them was? And that's how I live my life all the time, because no matter what kind of argument I have, whatever kind of disagreement I have, is it really worth knowing that this person or you may not wake up or may not make it, or you never know what life is going to bring you. And to make most out of life in general. Like there's so many things. We could sit here for hours and hours, okay, and talk about all the bad things that have happened to us. But is in the grand scheme of things, is it really worth it? Like, does that really overshadow all the good things that have happened to us in our lives? It shouldn't. Because if anything, whatever happened to us in our lives that were bad or left an imprint on us, it's taught us something. So we can't sit there and just wallow in our sadness because of, oh, this happened to me. And I think a lot of people do that, and that's where they go down the road of like drug addiction, depression, all these things. And it's just, life is too short. When you think about it, like, we're 41, like I still feel like I'm 21.
Me too.
Like, those 20 years went by in a flash. And like we were talking about the other day, like, hello, when we don't know when our last day is. It could be tomorrow, it could be 30 years from now, we don't know. But we're getting to that point where the days that we have left are a lot shorter than the years that we had.
When you say that, it scares me because it's so true. It's so true. And yeah, you're making me sit here and reevaluate like phone calls that I had, like my parents. I'm like, I'm going to call them back and tell them I love them more and all that. So thank you, because it's a lesson that we need to learn and apply to our lives. And I think everyone listening will take heart with that, because I mean, I didn't experience that accident, but I learned something from it, and through you. So I definitely am gonna, and it's a refresher, you talking about it today. Next time I want to roll my eyes, well, I'm not going to stop rolling my eyes, but next time I complain about like the littlest thing, just to reflect on like all the goodness that my life has in it and now, and just, this is my life, and just appreciate every moment and just enjoy it, enjoy the ride while I'm here. And so I thank you for that reminder.
Aww.
We needed that reminder today.
Thank you. Yes. And like you just said, we just need to focus on the good. Like, how would you want to be remembered as? Someone that was like a negative Nelly, or someone that was dealt
positive
with things?
Polly?
Yes, or a positive Polly. Like, honestly, life is too short, and we just have to take it as it comes, but also just embrace the good times. Hello.
Exactly.
But that's all.
Oh, that was a good one, Neen. My God. As per usual, learning lessons with Neen. This should be the name of this podcast.
You're funny.
Life lessons with Neen.
No, but just a reminder, if anybody has any suggestions or anything they want to talk about or hear about from us, feel free to let us know.
You can let us know on Instagram. Send us a DM or comment below when we post this snippets of this episode on our Instagram. Like, hey, Neen, help me out with this, because Neen will help you out with that.
I'll try.
And we want to hear from you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for the positive feedback.
Yes, definitely.
We absolutely are just having a blast. And I hope this never stops, Neen, because I'm having fun here with the bestie.
Likewise, such a blessing. But anyways, on that note, Steph.
On that note, thanks, Neen, for that invigorating episode, and catch you on the flip side.
Oh yeah, peace out, buddy.